If you had to coach a team of historical figures, who would you pick for quarterback and why?
I would say
I'm Josh Kelly with Reconciliation Church, and today we are continuing in our series to spotlight local leaders, and I'm sitting down with a local football coach, Nick Ayers. Nick, it's good to have you, man.
thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely. So why don't we get started just by you giving a quick background into who you are. Tell everybody, what your history is and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of go from there.
I grew up in Mount Carmel, Ohio. It's part of the West Clermont Local School District. Went to Glen Estee High School, graduated in 1999. Went to Georgetown College in Kentucky, played football there, and then became a coach after that. 2004 at Glen Estee, was a coach there for roughly 12 years, and then was the head coach at as an assistant and middle school, and then a head coach for 5, and then went on to West Clermont High School, was the head coach for 5, and now I'm going into my 3rd year at Williamsburg High School.
Oh, wow. Well, tell me a little bit more about your history in your family, because your family's been pretty ingrained in football for a number of years, right?
Yeah, so pretty well known in the football community.
Yeah.
Come from a background of coaches and players and stuff, and pretty talented human beings. I like to say that I'm probably the least talented one of the bunch, and it's still managed to do pretty well in my playing and coaching career. But that's still, the jury's still out on that, and we'll see how it goes. My dad was probably, for the Glen Estee part, was probably the most visible one that was around and being a leader in the community and coaching for all those years. I believe that he had coached for over 50 years in the West Clermont Local School District.
It's a long time.
That's a long time. So all 5 of his kids went through, 1 girl and 4 boys. I think all 4 of the boys got athletic scholarships somewhere, and were able to manage that. Some became pro athletes, and just they did a good job. I have uncles and stuff that are college coach down in South Carolina. Was a head coach for 30 years at the Division I level, and then I have a uncle that is the head of officials in Southwest Ohio for the courses and things like that, who's still heavily involved in a lot of the referee stuff. My uncle Ken, which they call him Skinner, he was my high school coach as well, my defensive coordinator when I was there, and he coached my brother Kyle. So just a lot. And then all my other family members are huge supporters and stuff of football wherever we're at.
So a long family history of football and coaching. And when did you know that you wanted to become a coach?
When did I know I wanted to become a coach? Probably fall 1991, and watching it was when I really got ingrained on the sideline of Glen Estee. It was my brother Mikey's senior year. I actually got ran over by a running back, Division I running back, on the sideline. I got trucked.
Oh, wow.
And knocked. It was probably my first football-related concussion. But Dennis Ashworth was the head coach, let me be on the sidelines with my dad and my brother. And my brother Walt had already graduated and went off to college. And they let me just be around. And it wasn't even about the game. It was everything before and after. In the community and camaraderie, and how much family there was involved. Of everybody looked different, acted different, but came together for one common goal. Yeah. And it didn't matter what your background was, how fast, big you were. If you had all the heart in the world, if you put out your best foot forward, then that was
And you talk about camaraderie, and I'm thinking through relationships, and I'm sure that now that you are a coach, you have your own philosophy of coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about, how that camaraderie plays into your coaching philosophy?
So we always expect our kids to be tougher than everybody. Sometimes that's not happened. We've been out tough sometimes. Yeah. And I don't even know if out tough's a word, but we gotta try for that. We always, I don't look it, but I do have an exercise phys degree, so I claim that our kids are in shape, and we always will play hard. And I think we're just a grimy, gritty, rough team to play.
Yeah.
And I take pride in that from where I'm from and where I come from and my family. And we're always going to play hard regardless of the score. And we say up 40, down 40, or tied at 40. Doesn't matter. You're going to play as hard as you can all the way till the end of the game. And, we just want to be a tough, gritty team.
Yeah. And so everybody kind of goes in then with that same mindset and perhaps leans on each other. Is that what you
I think
see out of the
so.
players?
I think so. I try to win the trust of the kids off the field.
Okay.
Try and know them more off the field. You can't just nowadays everybody wants to know why they're doing something, and it's easier to get through to a kid if you just go ahead and explain it before they have to ask why.
Yeah.
So, and then explaining it to their level. So everything is a la carte and everything's different explanation to each kid. One kid, his dad might have been a coach in youth and that he knows these things ahead of this kid that doesn't have a dad and he's been brought up and never played football till 7th grade year.
Yeah.
You have to explain it to them two totally different ways.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to be one size fits all for every kid.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, then you get that kid to play that way and play that way fast and aggressive. Then you get those 11 guys on the field all doing the same thing. That's when it's the best.
Yeah. And even football aside, though, I think you were talking about it a little bit before we even got started with the interview, talking about how each kid is different in life as well. Can you talk a little bit more about the experiences you've had there?
Yeah. I mean, you have kids that have unbelievable family support. Mom and dad are there, grandparents, everybody. You have kids that have no family support, whether that's the parents just aren't involved and aren't around and don't want anything to do with sports. Don't want anything to do with the child. Both parents are deceased, incarcerated. You have the parent that's overly involved, almost too much, the helicopter parent, right?
Yeah.
You have a multitude of kids, and then you have to go off of what that kid brings with them to school.
Sure.
Okay? So that kid that goes home and has no support whatsoever and no pressure to do well in school or football, they show up and you say, okay, what do I have to reteach you or reanalyze for you for you to be successful today? Then the kid he goes home and the parent and the dad's going to sit down with him and go over the plays, offer his input on what he should do, and be overcoached or over-influenced. Then you have to take that kid and say, okay, why did you learn that technique or do these things? And you take each kid each day and there's no complacency in it. So like there are times in my career where I have gotten complacent. There were battles I didn't want to fight.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't say certain things at certain times to get through. And I regret that.
Yeah.
Where every day is going to be different. Every kid, you don't know what a kid's eating. We've had kids that have gone 3 days without food, show up on Monday, and we have our unlimited snacks available and they're eating them like crazy. And you bring the kid in and talk to them and they're like, hey, mom was gone all weekend, didn't have anywhere to go, and this is all I got.
Man, that's
so
tough.
Yeah. So we try and support each kid and understand that everybody's got to be treated fair. It's not necessarily going to be treated equal, but we try and work with each kid's situation relative to what they have to deal with in school, out of school, learning, all that comprehension stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. That's a very specific approach, looking into the circumstances of each individual kid, both in personal life as well as in where they are in terms of football. I really like that philosophy that you've adopted or have created, that you use in your program. Let me ask you though, with all of the challenges that must come with running a football program, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in your years of coaching?
Well, the biggest challenge that I had to overcome that everybody would know was the year of COVID. When you were brought in, at the time I was at West Clermont High School, where we were the standard of Clermont County high schools because we were the largest enrollment. So we were held to the standard of following the exact protocol down to the letter and doing everything the right way and stuff. And that became exhausting. Days of lifting where you were only allowed 10 to 15 kids at a time on a roster of over roughly 100 kids. You were spending 8 hours a day up at the school on days that you really were supposed to be up there for an hour.
Right.
And then you were exhausted by the time you got there. So that was something that was very just out in the open, and very just everybody knows what the challenges were. Whatever you believe in the COVID realm, that was there. It was a rule. We followed that rule, and it down to the letter. We had a compliance person that walked the field at all times, and she did an amazing job for us and helped us. And it was definitely a challenge. It was hard.
Yeah.
The transition from 2 schools to 1 that year was hard. That summer, we had a lot of things happen over the summer that just were a lot of adversity. We moved weight rooms multiple times because, you were Glen Estee and Amelia. Well, we said, we're going to take our Glen Estee kids to Amelia. We're going to work out at Amelia because the Amelia kids don't know us as our staff. Yeah. And we worked out over there. It went great. I mean, unbelievable attendance, but moving that weight room was hard. Yeah. Then organizing the bus transportation from one school to the next, worrying about kids that normally aren't on a campus, what they're doing after lifting. Yeah. Are they wandering or doing certain things? And then you have the thing where we had to go back to Glen Estee because they had to take care of Amelia and get it ready for West Clermont Middle School. Yeah. So we moved back to Glen Estee for the short period of time, practice there. We went down to, we weren't allowed on the field, on the turf until the week of our first game. So we were practicing the outfield of the baseball field. I don't think there was running water. I mean, that might be like an exaggeration, like I walked both ways uphill, McDonald's, But I think we were getting ice donated from Siler's drive-through. Oh wow! And we were out in the middle. Just they might have. I don't think they turned off the electric because there was still stuff there, but there were so low resources out there. Yeah. All the way up to week 1. Yeah. And then we have an opponent like Princeton who had multiple D1 players. You're talking Power 5 players and play them in the first game. Yeah. That was challenging. Yeah. But each year has its own challenges, some good, some bad. Some feel like they're going to be devastating. Some feel like it's going to be, you're at the highest peak you could ever feel.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, though, because I wouldn't have, you're right. It was an open and known thing, an open and known challenge, but I wouldn't really have thought about, limiting how many people could be in the weight room and these different factors kind of impacting the way that you have to coach now, because you've had this one way of doing things for such a long time, and now you have to, on a dime, switch and kind of adjust. So, the phrase or the term that comes to mind for me then would be resiliency. So you must be quite resilient and adaptable to the circumstances that are around you. Do you feel like the kids have picked up on any of that? Do you think that they've learned any of those skills?
Just the young people are resilient to everything. Yeah. It's amazing how resilient they can be, and they can adapt to stuff. They go off of how the adults feel. Yeah. If we were frustrated in the COVID time, it would automatically fall onto them. Yeah. And that was where I kind of lost a little bit, where I didn't handle things as well as I should. You try and be resilient for the kids, you try and do certain things, but you can only separate so many things and bring kids in waves and try and do things the right way. Sure. Then compliance is here. People drive by, take pictures of our practice, different, all kinds of things like that. So it was very stressful, so the resiliency of the kids is just naturally within them. You just have to continue to maintain your composure for them. Yeah. And they'll maintain it. Yeah. If not, they'll lose it just as much as you. It's just like a coaching staff that flips out in a negative way. They get mad at their players when they flip. With me, I'm never going to flip on my kids. Yeah. I'm never going to change, win or lose. Some people think that, hey, you don't be treated different because you win or lose, because so many factors and variables come into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm not changing who I am. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're going to line up. We're going to play hard. We're going to shake hands. We're going to walk over. We're going to sing the fight song in alma mater, win, lose, or draw. Yeah. Don't matter. People hated that. People hated it. Sure. But if I lose my job tomorrow and go home to my wife and she treats me differently, I don't think that's right. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Resiliency, when you have something happen to your children, when you have something happen to your spouse or your parents or something, and that adversity, and then you automatically treat everybody different because you take an L. Right. I don't think that's right. Yeah. So I'm not going to change. We're going to go over. We're going to be loyal to our fans. We're going to appreciate our fans. We're going to walk over, okay? Serve our respect regardless of whatever, shake hands, and we're going to go over and sing the fight song alma mater. That's it. Yeah, and I think that's good to instill that in kids, because I do think that it prepares them well for life. And to your point, I think they're taking their cues from their leader.
they may have a lot of resiliency built within them, but kids follow, their leader. And if the leader isn't pointing them in that direction, then I think it can go the other direction.
So a tradition we did start, though, because the Glen Estee track wasn't great, right? Like, it really wasn't that nice.
Yeah.
It was torn up, We started going over to the stands at the end of every game so the parents could hear exactly what we said.
Oh, okay.
That's hard to sit there as a parent and you think something's wrong and you've been sitting watching a game, and whether you're frustrated or whatever, sometimes parents say things, you know what I mean? And people didn't like, but we're going to go over there every time. I'm not going to say, hey, win, we're going to do this. Lose, we're going to do this. So going over to that sideline put us in situations where everybody's wrapped around you.
Yeah.
So you were in different situations where, hey, you guys should have coached better, in a different term,
Sure.
which is fine. But, I'm willing to say I'm going over there every time.
Yeah.
Face it.
Yeah.
Every time. We're not changing up on the kids. I'm not going to treat them any different on Monday after we get beat on Friday.
Yeah.
And we're going to move forward. And that's how it's always going to be.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we've talked a little bit about, your family legacy in football. We've talked about you as a coach and as a leader, but you have this space, this academy that you've put together. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this is going to be our lodge area, our lounge. This is a space that's going to be for study table. I would almost think of it as like a college football lounge.
Okay.
There's going to be a small movie theater right here. There's going to be ping pong table, shuffleboard,
nice.
Pool table, a learning center. And then there's going to be stuff that we're trying to do for the kids, imaging, for them to bring in photographers, have the green screen, and different things like that. There'll be food and laundry facilities here for them to get their stuff done. And try and break down the barriers and interactions. We don't want them to go home and the only hands-on activity they have is behind a screen.
Yeah.
And that's, twiddle their thumbs. We want them here interacting with people.
Yeah.
There'll be a mentor here monitoring everything. There'll be cameras and things like that. So we're trying to build up social interaction within an arm's length.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's the motto? Do you have a motto or a phrase or
So at the end of
guide?
the day, I always want to feed kids. Ever since I was little, my grandma always made Gailey spaghetti. And everybody that came to my house always ate Gailey spaghetti.
Okay.
And I want to feed kids. That's it. Kids and families. Yeah. From my day job at the ESC, or here at night or on the weekends or whatever, is be able to have, and being a church, feeding someone is biblical, right? And I think that through that and through physical activity and suffering together, you can build a great man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's a great North Star, feeding people. And it sounds like you're doing more than just, feeding them with food, but you're actually feeding their soul and really preparing them for life. So that's pretty cool. And I didn't even realize all the awesome stuff you have planned for up here. I didn't get to talk to you about that. So.
Yeah, so we wouldn't do any physical stuff up here as far as athletic activity. We have another location for that.
Okay.
And then we have a turf that we'll be able to use. We used the old football field at Osborne Field for our flag football fundraiser. So we have that physical stuff can be out there. Here is where kids can be kids. They're going to come here and have resources outside that, and then get help. And this is a place for them. Yeah. So that's what we want. I like the image of it. Yeah. Pretty cool warehouse, you know. The couple of my football players, 3 of them worked their butts off getting this place cleared out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I want to see who the leader of it was. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to see who led the charge on that, whether it was Caleb, Bronson, or Charlie. I want to see which of them really took the lead and who did the most work or who was the foreman and watched, So, but I think they did a great job, and I owe them tremendously for it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome space. So, well, is there anything else that you would want people to know about you or your academy, anything that you would want to share to a broader audience?
I want them to know that it is important for you to get out there and strain and work hard. Yeah. And to build your kids up and not take them out of school and not take them out of sports. And to get there and allow them to suffer, allow them to fail, and to find people that they can find that are going to have their best interest and help them find the next pathway in life.
Yeah.
Whether that is career, college, or military, whatever that is, that someone helps them get to that next spot.
Yeah.
And only so many people in football play pro or become a Division I player. So why not right now make those kids feel so important that relative to this town, that's how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like with, some of the community stuff and leadership and grinding it out together, and you're building young men into men who are going to take those skills. And to your point, many of them not play professional football, but hold, normal everyday jobs. And you've now equipped them to be able to do that and maybe to lead a family and to raise other young men. So I think that the space you have here, all the stuff that you're doing as a coach and a leader in the community is outstanding. And on behalf of them, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I appreciate them being here. And the parents that do trust us with their kids, when a parent drops off a kid, that's the most prized possession.
Yeah,
should
sure,
be, right?
For sure.
And you got to treat them like that.
Yeah.
And if they leave feeling worse than when they showed up, are you really doing your job as a coach?
Yeah.
And that's one guarantee we try and do. And if you're a coach that can guarantee wins and losses, I would love to meet you and shake your hand and understand that.
Yeah.
But to make the kids come, feel important, and be a part of something more than themselves,
yeah,
that was, that's what's important.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right, just one final question, just for fun. If you had to coach a team of historical figures, who would you pick for quarterback and why?
Not previously played football, right?
Correct.
Never played football and historical. So like famous politicians, actors, whatever.
Yeah.
Ooh. I would say Abraham Lincoln, because, hear me out, he was tall, right? He was a big dude, right? He does look like Andrew Luck, so he probably would play like him. Yeah. And Kenny Powers said he was an all-state wrestler. So that's what I think. It was Abe Lincoln.
You get the height and the athleticism.
And he was already an all-state wrestler, so he knows. I don't know if he had the cauliflower and stuff, but either way.
Andy's a great leader, evidently.
Andy's a great leader.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. It was great sitting down to chat. Really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come in here. The place is awesome, and best of luck in the future, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.